Welcome back, everybody. How are we doing tonight? All happy and joyful? Wonderful as always?
Yes. Indeed.
Good.
Absolutely.
Good. Glad to hear it. Good to see everybody. All right, well, let us jump right into it with our recap. So, an extension of your shopping episode last time. You took care of a few more your errands and your affairs, getting things in order for your anticipated trip, trying to figure out the logistics of building a town, which proved to be quite difficult, complicated. But nonetheless, you checked Thurgle on the progress with your cannon making and black powder crafting. Valerica, spent some time talking to your mother about, well, initially your plan was to talk about the town and how you guys can move forward, and ended up running into a very interesting and mysterious individual who was talking to your mother in your very private estate, who was revealed to be a member of the Roiling League, group of very powerful adventurers who don't spend much time in the world anymore. And he left for you a gift, a bribe, something, after indicating that the League itself was watching all of you after your efforts in Garavia. And you learned a little bit about what they do and about the idea of living sentient, or at least aware, dungeon places that adventurers can dive into. Further discuss a little bit of your plans about how to handle moving forward with anchoring your homestead to the material plane for the time being for construction, and then figuring out what to do with it from there. And Salima, you attuned yourself to an empowered version of your weapon after a wonderful ritual to bind the core of an elemental being into your bow. Came away with the ability to wield a little bit of magic with it, and made a connection with a deity. That was you taking a level in cleric, right?
Yes, it was.
Excellent. So, Liv, you hung out, right? You just mostly hung out, tagged along, looked around.
That's correct. I had a very nice
relaxing
couple of days.
Yeah. Good to just kind of take a break, have a reprieve after the harrowing ordeals that you guys had been through not more than 2 days ago, when you think about it. You know?
Still not enough time to even have true fallout from what we did to that poor town.
No, not even remotely. It'll take a little longer than that for news to travel, so.
Or little go.
Which is why we should definitely be on the road to Mystros. We should probably get moving pretty soon here.
Yeah. So, we find ourselves back in, I believe everyone was back in the Puzzle Box homestead, reconvening after the day of traveling and talking. Well, you still got most of the day. So.
Valerica, if I remember correctly, had gotten drunk at the inn, and we had packed it in for the night. We were pretty late into the evening.
No, that was a couple episodes back.
Am I out of time
before.
That was the day before.
Okay.
Yeah, this was the last thing that you did was have a conversation with your mother about the logistics of planning a city and a town, and seeing if she'd be willing to help.
Right.
Either fund it or run it or whatever. And she
Am
offered you a dungeon egg, essentially.
Am I still with her then? And the three of them are... No, Salima's in the tower, or in the Puzzle Box homestead, because you were doing archery stuff.
The rest of us had come back, but I wasn't sure if you had returned yet from your mother, because your trip seemed to take longer than the rest of ours.
3 of you are inside the homestead, and Valerica is still talking to her mother.
I got meanwhile. Well, no, I brought her back.
you were in the process of bringing her.
Yeah. we
Yeah,
hadn't
I was
quite
in the
ended off
process
there
of
yet.
bringing her. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yes, and we did meanwhile with Selima connecting to her deity.
As I watched Liv in the distance dealing with her bareback horse riding.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, that was the most eventful part of your day, was getting new horses and trying
Falling
to...
on my arse a few times.
Yeah, it happens, you know. You got to get on the horse to learn how to ride it, and that involves falling off.
That and the fact that I didn't have a saddle because I'm trying to be all extra.
Yeah, fair. It's an aesthetic, you know.
Trying to be that coffee lady.
Hey, you guys are at the point where you can start affording aesthetics, you know? You're not running around in starter gear anymore, for the
Truth.
most part. But that is where we begin. Valerica, you were taking your mother into the Puzzle Box homestead while the others were doing their things. So, let's start you off there.
All right. So currently, I have a frame of reference. Are we at the house and about to leave, or are we arriving?
Let's put you, like, you just teleported in.
All right. So this is it.
Always such a wonder coming back in here.
We have, I believe, a few acres bound to this plane, and I took some time and explored it with Uther, who seems to be off now. Haven't heard anything back from them, but I don't know how this works when I tether it to a plane, if the land gets simply shoved into the plane, or if it takes place of existing land and projects over it. Do you have any insights?
Well, if it's my understanding that's correct, it would... That's a good point, I don't know. Kind of looks around for a moment.
The basis that material can neither be created nor destroyed in this world.
You'd have to just push it out of the way or something.
Right.
Well, most pocket dimensions, when they contain things, and then those things are forcibly removed from that dimension, it tends to just go to the next unoccupied space. So, possible that any buildings will try and fit themselves into the material plane as best as possible. It's magic. Sometimes it just sorts itself out.
Enough. Regardless, does this look like a project you want to take on?
Well, I have no idea
Yes,
how
you
long...
live a horse in the background in the middle of the conversation.
I have no idea how long you would be going, but any amount of time. Ample to set up a few key buildings, and have those drafted and put in place while you're gone.
You know, now that I think about it, I do believe that I told the architect 3 weeks. I don't know how long we'll be gone. I'm hoping this won't take more than a week and a half. We're trying to get back and be on call for what's going on and what's unfolding, but sometimes matters take longer to resolve than I anticipate.
Good. Usually. Well, I think this is... She kind of looks around. And you know the way that you're thinking and running them. She's kind of slipped into the head of household kind of thought process and that demeanor where she's kind of straightened up, taking stock of everything, running numerous like calculations and like guesstimations in her head about like what space is available, taking into account what they might be, where they might be putting things, where they might be putting this entire space. I think this would be quite fun.
Would you like me to bind it here for him to work on, and then we pack it up and then plant it somewhere in the hinterlands?
I think that actually might be a good idea. Yes, we'll find an empty tract of land somewhere outside of Wolverine. It'd probably be the easiest, somewhere between the estate and the city. Plenty of open space. Good halfway point. So out the logistics. Just a matter of going through the binding process.
Right.
But we can sort that out. Just need to make sure that none of you is specifically tethered to it at the time, and you have everything out of it. Shouldn't be too difficult. We'll do quite nicely.
Some things that are probably best left in our in our home.
Fair enough, and I can post guards to make sure that they're watched, and for your construct friends, she looks as one kind of walks
Yes.
by and she kind of nods to it. No need, but she's polite. I'm sure they'd be more than willing to... No, they don't fight, but they might be a deterrent. Don't worry, we'll have people.
Please. But really, there are two of the constructs have been enchanted, and that was enough of a pain to cast various spells, such as Arcane Lock and Create Food and Water. So, if you could really keep a tight eye on this while we're away, make sure nothing wanders off, as sometimes they do.
I'll do my best. But at some point, when you do back, we'll have to discuss the finer logistics of the town. You just have to run one yourself one day. Might be it. Eventually, nobility catches up to all of us. Well, most of them.
I'm sure it will at some point.
Kind of looks around looking for everyone else. Where is everyone else?
I'm on the horse.
Are you still running around?
I'm assuming I'm getting pretty good at it at this point.
Yeah, I'd say you're starting to master it a little more. Yeah. Comfortably kind of riding around. What about you, Salim? Where were you at?
So I was still outside. I guess I had just finished my conversation, I suppose.
Fair enough.
So I was probably, at this point, I'm probably deciding whether or not if I have enough pieces to rebuild the scarecrow dummy that I've absolutely abolished.
Just demolished. Yeah, as you walk, as you're kind of walking around taking stock, Valerica, with your mother, you do see kind of wide tracts of damage in the ground. Like bits of like trees and like rocks and leaves have kind of been disturbed. Things look like they've just kind of been tossed around by like a massive gust of wind. One of the training dummies that was set up outside is just shredded to pieces. Splinters of wood everywhere.
Well, that's new. Hi. Having fun?
Learning lessons. Learning lessons.
I've been there.
And trying to understand them.
Well, I don't know how many possessions you have around the... whatever we're calling this, but I do suggest gathering them up, as it looks like we will need to unbind ourselves once we bind this to the material plane.
Something happens if we don't?
Oh, it's just a precautionary measure. You notice that the Baroness is now in the space with you guys. Just to be sure. We don't know the full nature of what doing such things would do, so it's best we move valuables out in case.
Plan at this moment is to bring this, in the physical realm, back to the house in Shadowfen, because there are a number of powerful relics that are carried within these halls that I would prefer immediately transported into my family's holding, rather than let them wander around.
Completely understood. As far as possessions, I don't really have all that much aside from my rock. I mean, other than that, I carry most of my life in my bag, so.
I got a rock.
My mossy rock.
And the horse.
Yes, Midnight.
Midnight will
Midnight
likely
would be-
stay at the Shadowfen estate along with my horse. That way they can be tended to and groomed and fed in our absence as we cross the seas to Master Thurgle's.
Yes,
That'll be
but-
interesting. I've never heard of his land. But I don't cross the sea, so.
It's fair.
Where is Thurgle right now?
Thurgle is currently deconstructing the madness cage to use the scrap metal.
Okay. Just pulling the cage apart. I love it. Okay.
He's not even using magic. He's trying to get stress and anxiety off his mind and doing it manually.
Okay. Yeah. You guys do kind of hear like the wrenching and tearing of metal, the clattering of it as it kind of hits the ground. As things kind of quiet down. You can still kind of hear Liv riding her horse. What's that?
I say, for me, those sounds mean nothing. I've spent enough time with him solo to know that that's what's happening. But I would like to, at this point, be like, wait, is that Lady Indrik? And be like, what the fuck is she doing here? I'm just going to go over there and join in on the conversation.
Okay. As you approach on the horse, she kind of gives you a nod. Lady McTavish, how are you?
You're doing great. How are you?
Quite all right. Can't complain. Taking stock of everything as we plan to bind this to the material plane. I see you've a new companion.
Yes, this is Vala, and I attempt to do like a graceful dismount and present her to Lady Indrik on the ground.
You're relatively dexterous. I mean, getting off of a horse is not all too difficult for, you guys. She kind of approaches the horse. Lovely specimen. Hope it serves you well.
We shall see.
No saddle. Daring you are.
I figured this would look a little bit better when it comes time for performances.
Interesting. I personally would have chosen a glamoured saddle myself. You do you, I suppose. But,
So what are our plans here, ladies? What are we going to be doing with this place?
For the duration of the architecture and construction while we're overseas, it sounds like we're going to be binding it to the material plane to allow for construction. And then once we return, whenever that actually ends up being, moving it to another location, which is yet to be determined.
Fair enough.
When do we need to move the possessions?
Sooner the better. Liv, I would suggest gathering any possessions you have around the house. Just relocating them to be on your body as much as possible. Binding will likely take place in the next day.
That shouldn't be a problem. I'm pretty sure I don't have much after ending up on the water plane. I've got most of it in a bag and then this beauty right here.
And while we're away, we can keep her in the stables along with, I'm assuming Thurgle got a horse as well?
Do you remember? Did
Yes,
you get a horse?
I got the pony and I...
Yes, he got a boat. We've had a boat for him.
Perfect.
His name is not Bill.
Alright. Interesting name.
not Bill. Very interesting.
No, I just mean he's not Bill the Pony. His name is one of those other Greeky thingies that he's always saying with his god. I don't remember.
Ah, understood.
I see.
Well, do you mind, Villarca, darling, do you mind if I take a look around? Get a good look
Please.
at everything?
Go ahead.
Excellent. Well, she looks at you, Selima, and you, Liv. Kind of gives a nod to both of you. You'll excuse me. She walks with purpose off towards the mansion proper.
Fast to
Maybe
work.
either. Sorry?
She's fast to work.
Very efficient and effective mind. Either of you heard of the Roiling League?
Would I have heard of it as an adventurer and traveler myself?
Yes, as members of the Adventuring League, you would all know of the Roiling League.
Okay.
They
And
are
yes.
the most powerful member of kind of any adventuring that exists. They usually bring people in from the Adventuring Guild once they reach certain ranks. Very few people ever do those ranks, but they usually kind of poach their numbers from the itself and then disappear from the world.
They like to pretend like they're not a subsection of the Adventuring Guild, but they are. Although they do operate with a certain amount of autonomy.
Character choice for Liv. I'm going to use them as like one of the inspirations as to why I chose to leave my family and go out to be an adventurer in the first place, because I heard the tales of the Roiling League, and that's why I went into the Adventuring Guild and such. So
They're definitely the most glamorous and mysterious, so that makes sense for sure.
So I'll relay that to Valerica, and Celia will be like, oh, yeah, guys, they were like my idols growing up. They're the whole reason I'm out here.
So they've taken notice of us. They know what we did in Gravia, moreover.
Oh.
Which is... And they're proud of our work.
I feel like there was more to meet the eye than we saw in Gravia then. Which is considering how many eyes there were.
I think what we did and who we took down has a farther reaching impact than we understand.
You mean the false god or taking down
false
an entire
god.
capital?
They don't care about capitals. They don't care about countries. They have almost no allegiances. I think something we did there had a larger effect on the world than we understood.
How did
And
you
what's-
find out that they were interested in us?
Well, they were talking to my mom because they're constantly trying to recruit her and my father. Let's group up with Thurgle. There's some things that we need to discuss.
Oi, Thurgle!
Liv, if you wouldn't mind gathering him, I'm gonna go make us some tea.
I'm gonna
I'm
jump
gonna
up on the horse and book it
Follow
over
behind
to Thurgle.
Valerica.
Okay.
Once I get over to Thurgle on the horse, instead of actually getting off the horse, I'm gonna like sneak up behind him, matching the wrenching of what he's doing, and like poke him on the shoulder to see if I can startle him.
Okay. Poked him on the shoulder. Did you startle him?
Roll for stealth.
Yeah, sure. Roll for stealth. Let's see how startled you are. You know what? With advantage, because it's loud and he's very distracted.
Good lord. That is going to be a 22.
I'd say that's enough to... He's not paying attention, so it definitely beats his passive.
Considerably.
So you in the throes of your breaking down this cage, you feel this very unexpected presence and tap on your shoulder.
I would like to turn and try to swipe with whatever I am holding, probably either a pry bar or a hammer.
Okay. Roll
You
an
hit
attack.
my horse. I'm gonna kill you.
Roll an attack. Is your horse right next to you, or are you on the horse?
I'm on the horse.
Ooh.
It is a dirty 20.
Fuck you.
Okay, so yeah, you swing around with your hammer. It's just a regular hammer, right? Or a crowbar, or whatever it is.
Because he's short, he's gonna hit the horse and not me. So should I be using the horse's stats right now?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, he still hits the horse.
Oh yeah, yeah. He'll hit a horse with a 20 for sure. Roll 1d4 plus your strength modifier.
Me?
No, Thurgle, to see how much damage he does to
Oh,
your horse.
Jesus Christ, babe.
6.
So you swing and just impact this heavy kind of thing. Unexpected amount of bulk as this horse. You hear this like this whinny of protest as it kind of kicks up. Liv, you kind of hold on really kind of tight as your horse kind of bucks and rears itself.
Oh, man.
Thurgle, roll a dex save.
This horse gonna cave your face in right now.
Whew. 16.
Okay. You barely make it out of the way of these flailing hooves that are just kind of coming at you for the brief moment that you kind of swung around and see what happened. But eventually it does calm down.
What the fuck, Liv?
You're the one who's clearly in your own world over there. Valerica's back with her mother. There's news. Let's go. And then I take like 2 seconds because I'm assuming the horse is still like freaking the fuck out. And I'm going to use I believe it's cure wounds I have. 1 second. Healing touch. I'm going to use healing touch to heal my horse and calm her down real quick.
Yeah,
and then
yeah, all right. Fair enough. He kind of soothes the horse, and and she calms down. Kind of puffs at both of you, but otherwise just kind of stands resolute. Well-trained horse, honestly. It's a well-trained horse. Just a little startled.
I hail over a construct and I dismount and I'm like, hey, please take the horse to the stables. I'm going inside. Thanks. Bye. Let's go.
All right.
Your horse is led slowly by this mechanical construct.
I would say there's no saddle, so it's just the bit in the reins right there.
Yep. Weirdly enough, the construct seems to be doing a better job of leading the horse. Somehow. It's the calm, cold indifference.
Can't sense fear in a thing that has no emotions.
Exactly. So the horse is just kind of like, all right, guess I'm being led by this, by this strange stick man. All right. So you guys do reconvene. Where are you guys meeting up inside?
I'm just in the kitchen pouring some tea.
Okay. All right. So you guys do reconvene inside the kitchen. Liv and Thurgle, you hear the movement in there. You see Baroness Indrik, you see Drata running around, kind of moving around, looking at everything, kind of taking stock. You see a small kind of floating book next to her with a scroll that's kind of writing, with a quill rather, that's writing things as she's kind of walking. You can hear her kind of muttering under her breath as walking around.
So, we have an interesting option that has been presented to us. Thurgle, to bring you up to speed, the Roiling League has taken notice of our activities in Goravia.
The Roiling League.
Yes. Yes. And attempted to bribe my mother into joining them. She remains unswayed as she has throughout the entirety of my life. And yes. And instead passed what they gave to her on to me.
Passed what?
I'm gonna pull out the stone.
Okay. You guys see this almost impossible, like she pulls something out. Like, are you pulling out the thing, the box that it was in, or are you pulling out the actual item?
No, it's in the box, so
Okay.
I pull out the box and I just put the box on the table for a second.
She puts this little kind of small box. It's like a ring box kind of size.
Are you proposing?
Not in the way you think, but it's not far off. I'm gonna open the box.
Okay.
What you do not see is the youngest form of a creature that is rarely known to be sentient. It is a baby dungeon that will produce monsters, loot, and anything we feed it in its like in return, so long as we feed it adventures of all shapes and sizes.
So
Wait, a baby what?
Just
You know how when there's a mine, like when we were up in, oh god, I don't remember her name ever. The one we got drunk with, where we had to fight off the oozes?
Oh yes, the ooze cave that ended up swallowing
Right.
our yeah. Jeez, that was so long ago.
That was a long time ago. Shit.
Those encounters or engagements are often referred to as dungeons. This creature is a sentient one of those.
Of my 400 plus years on this planet, does Selima have any knowledge of any of that?
Roll a history check. Or Arcana. For you.
Thurgoat at his 150 years would like to roll history check
Yeah,
too.
roll a history check.
Liv would like to walk up and try to touch it.
16.
I kind of pull it back when you do. It's very sensitive right now.
So
What would happen if I touched it?
you opened it, right?
I don't know. Yeah, I have it just sitting
Okay.
open in the box right now.
You guys look at this box. There doesn't seem to be there. It doesn't seem to be anything. Like it just kind of seems to be this like empty space, and then you kind of focus in a little bit, and it's just like an impossibly clear sphere that's just sitting there. It just barely catches the light. It's a little trippy. So Slim, you got a 16. Thurgle, what'd you get?
A 4. I know shit.
Okay, fair enough. I can answer Thurgle's a little easier. You've heard legends and myths about such things, about the deep places of the earth, or old ruins or isolated locations that seem to be endlessly filled with creatures and hazards. No matter how many times people explore them, they never seem to be tameable. They're never empty, they're never devoid. You guys know, with all of your history of adventuring and your experience, like diving into, ancient ruins and deep caves and all these things, you go into a place, you clear it out, it stays clear until something new kind of moves in, right? For the most part, like, and like if you've been contracted, like you guys have taken adventures in the past where, go clear out an old ruin so that a town can expand into it and lost things. They can do so, and it doesn't stay as dangerous as it was. You've heard myths and legends of places that just are not tameable. They're not clearable. They always remain hazardous, dangerous, and filled with all kinds of like strange creatures, and they usually have like complex, depths to them. You can find all kinds of bizarre magical items and effects and all kinds of things, but mostly in the realm of kind of fantasy of, wow, wouldn't it be fascinating to explore one of these places? Too bad they don't really, they seem to be more kind of speculative or legendary. Selima, you on the other hand, you're familiar with kind of myths and legends of kind of the same ilk, but you do know that there is a kernel of truth to some of them. Most myths and legends are simply exaggerations. The common folk trying to explain away things that they can't control and have to hire adventurers to fix. But there are a few places, and really a small number, we're talking no more than 2 or 3, that seem to have some credence of the same creatures always appear. Bizarre, strange, magical, mysterious things. And they're all told in kind of all these stories, and all kind of told in whispers. Some of them are common knowledge. They're all either secretive, or it's like somebody's trying to reduce them to myth and to obscurity. There's no like, oh yeah, I can directly point to a location and that's a place to go. Like, heard of these things, and you know that there's likely credence to some of them, but they're exceedingly rare or an incredibly convoluted hoax.
So back to Liv, because Liv was
so Liv.
reaching for it and we were having a discussion. The only thing that I'm worried about is whoever was there that handed this off to us said that when it gets buried, is when it gets activated. I don't want us to activate it here, so if you do hold it, please be very careful not to drop it. I don't know if this thing will bury itself.
Fair point.
So you're saying it has to be planted, like a seed?
Essentially.
This cannot be real. I've heard stories of this. How? What?
I've heard stories too, but just like I've heard stories of creatures inside caves that eat the brains and gain knowledge and witness them, some stories have, some morsels of truth to them.
If anyone would have control over these creatures, it would be the Roiling League.
So they're planting these? That they feed adventurers to?
I mean,
How
everything
else
has
to
to
become
eat.
world-renowned?
Everything has to eat. It's part of the natural order of things. And either adventurers go and spill some blood, or come back rich. I mean, it's the gamble we all take whenever we go after a contract. Look. After we finish with Thurgle, this is something I'm interested in exploring. It's a unique opportunity, and I don't know about what your guys' goals are, but the Roiling League has always caught my eye.
I feel like there's a lot of tests and or traps wrapped up on this one.
Probably.
Are we willing to accept gifts? Are we willing to sacrifice people potentially? Are we willing to do tasks for them that they have not truly given details about? Maybe catching their eye could lead to some great things, but I would be lying if I said I wasn't nervous, but I'm with you. I've wanted to be a part of the Roiling League for most of my life, so I'm willing to give it a try, if nothing else.
Gifts come with a price.
Well, the price of this wasn't on us to pay. This was offered freely as a bribe to get my mother to do something she's made very clear that she will not do. Also, in case you guys haven't noticed, she's that kind of powerful.
Oh, I always assumed as much. Your mother was quite impressive from day one.
Absolutely. But I also wouldn't put it past the Roiling League with the stories we've heard that they knew your mother would turn them down and she would hand it over to us either.
How much do they know about what we did in Gravia?
It's not like they ever really stay around to chat. Pretty much said, heard about what you did, heard about the good work you did in Gravia.
Good
Looking
work.
forward, yes, they were in favor of what we did there, and said looking forward to working with you soon, or in the near future, something along those lines.
We toppled the capital.
We did.
But we also took out a god, or something that called itself one.
A false god.
Something that had some modicum of influence in this world. To one degree or another, I can't really speak to that.
So we did good work.
Look, that place sucked anyway.
Well, I'm not saying it was great, but I'm still trying to wrap around that it was considered good work.
You'd be hard pressed to define what good is when it comes into that kind of situation.
Also understand this is now coming from the morality of people that just handed me something that we are potentially to feed living sentient beings to in order to prove and test their mettle.
I mean, if you want to raise a snake, you need to feed it a mouse, so...
I understand, and I follow a very similar logic. I mean, I've grown up adventuring, hearing about adventures, with adventures. This is my life. That and Mother has an idea to monetize it and run an adventuring town around it.
That would be a great place for a blacksmith repair shop, that's for sure.
That'd be a great
It
stop
would.
off to sing tales and earn lots of side money. There's so much potential here. We just have to be ready for what comes.
So that's
Turgle
the
is going to
current.
mimic Liv. Did you ever hear about the dungeon that kills you? I'm not Sunbreaker.
You leave that to the professionals, okay?
Either way.
I didn't mind it.
Thank you.
That being said, for whatever reason, these items are kept very secret for a reason. I encourage us all to be very tight-lipped about this.
Makes sense to me.
I don't
Essentially-
know. I don't know enough about this to know whether or not yet it's worth. Well, I think it's worth sharing and getting money out of it, but I don't know how this can be used against us. So I'm loath to give up information, valuable information, easily. So for now, it's a dungeon that we found and built a group around. How's that?
Works for me.
Does it have a name?
Not yet. I mean, it's just a baby.
So essentially, it's like a mimic.
I think of sorts.
It's enchanted to grow to
Some
an extent.
variants.
Does it stop? Does it stop growing at some point, or does it just continue on?
The impression that I have at this point is that it continues growing on, especially as we feed it more and more powerful things. When it starts, we're going to have to feed it very, very small things originally. So maybe like a squirrel, or...
What about a dagger?
Well, that's the other interesting thing. Whatever we give it, it will start replicating. So the powerful artifacts that are coming into our possession, there's a chance that we can then use the dungeon to replicate them.
Interesting.
Sounds terrifying.
Sounds lucrative.
I would hate for someone to have a copy of Zephyr.
Look,
Well,
the lot of
you-
you guys, the lot of you have stayed around me for some time now. Seriously, what are your intentions? What are your goals? What are you doing?
Well, you've
can't
known
all-
mine for a long time.
I also lost you for several months, and you came back different.
Different than having seen a different literal plane of existence for an extended period of time, but other than getting older and having new experiences, I don't really have any different goals in mind.
So just still to travel and explore, see different horizons, learn new things, new songs, new muses.
Absolutely.
So you wouldn't be interested in being bound down then?
Say that again?
You wouldn't necessarily be interested in being bound to a particular physicality then?
I'd like to have a place I can call home where I don't have to go back to where my family is, but I can't say that I'd spend all my time there.
Fair. Thurgle, what of you?
Well, I will say, Mystros is where I am from, but it is not necessarily my home. I've really enjoyed the time with you and doing everything we have, helping those we have, destroying what we have. That was always fun. But if it comes down to it, I would not mind running my own blacksmith shop at the mouth of this dungeon eventually. And
Slay,
just
man.
spend my time creating.
Right. What of
You
you?
know, I'm not one for towns. Not typically.
But this town has something that constantly needs to be taken care of.
True. I joined up with you in the midst of chasing a demon to help a farmer, whom his boy's insides were splattered across a barn. So, I follow you and the entire group based off of the entire idea that we are stopping these different calamities and things like that. Towns, I'm very iffy on. Transforming into a polar bear was very interesting in the middle of a big, busy town. Probably not the wisest of ideas. Probably one of my most amazing lack of judgment, but that's also what comes with being around you, is the spontaneity. Day in, day out, where I do what I've done before meeting you, it's been typically the same. There's a difference when I get to be a part of things that genuinely need to be dealt with. Now, have the smaller farmsteads probably suffered in that sense? Possibly. The Adventuring Guild should be taking care of more of those than what I'd like to admit they don't. But there's also a means of being paid to do them. I've never typically received payment.
Yeah, the Adventuring Guild is pretty discerning about making sure that the people get paid.
So, it'll
Look,
be interesting.
the reason I ask is because, bluntly, I don't want any of you to commit to something you're not committed to. And starting a town essentially is like having a child. It's something that has to be taken care of. It's something that people have to agree to. And it's sounding like that's, and Valerica's eyes are following her mother running around the property. It's sounding like that's the route that I'm being pushed into. Or taking up.
So then I guess the real question is, are you ready for that?
My mother makes a solid point. Eventually, my nobility will catch up with me. While there have been discussions as to my role in my family, and I know that I will not, it's not going to be me. I'm not going to be the head of the house, and I'm not going to be the champion. I've had a couple very frank discussions as of late that have shown that in very clear light. So I don't know what my future holds.
While you're saying this, Liv just reaches out and puts her hand on your forearm because she knows like how hard you fought for these, how badly you wanted them, and just as like that fucking sucks. I understand, but I also know that you're gonna make the best of whatever comes. I'm not actually saying any of this. I'm just trying to convey that. Like, yeah.
Kind of like squeezes her hand back, like in like the reassuring, like I don't know what's coming. We have some incredibly large foes on the horizon. Thurgles, and then, in case I haven't made this explicitly clear to everyone, an ancient red dragon fight is coming up. So we have that to contend with.
All the more reason to have a few more cannons made.
Yeah, I don't think they'll do any damage. I'm worried I won't do any damage. Those things are immune to fire.
Of course, it is not fire, it is little metal ball that is shot very fast.
We may need more of them then.
Well, I know a guy who can make some.
You'll have to introduce me sometime. I kind of like nudge him with my elbow.
He is a very pleasant person. Has nice blacksmith shop in the middle of two mages.
Anyway.
You're familiar.
I know.
You know the...
I also just... Valerica would not like someone that's that anti-magic.
Fair.
Anyway.
Ren.
Is this something that a lot of you are interested in? It's not a foe to be slain.
I'd be willing to give it a shot. How long does it generally take to start growing these little suckers?
I don't know. There's fantastically poor information documented about this in any way, shape, or form. I can't even go to a library and get a book on this.
Because I'm thinking that even if I'm not there 24/7, I could be going out and bringing back some very interesting things to put into it to make ours more lucrative.
There's going to be a period of time, and if it's in its infancy, where it will need guided hands, just like any infantile creature, right? We're
Right.
going to need to be there to supervise it to make sure that it's getting whatever it needs. If
How do you
it's
want to
magical,
get that?
I don't know. I don't know if this is going to be us camping in the weeks for Two Woods and realizing we've been punked.
I mean, how sentient is it? Will it recognize parental figures, much like that of a fledgling? Will it, does
Well,
it
you know me, I
imprint?
love trial and error. It's going to be fun.
It's also something that needs to be dealt with later. We have some much more immediate threats on the horizon, and I do not want us to be pulled into sitting still for weeks on end while we figure out what we're doing with this. So my proposal right now is that it gets locked down tight in Shadowfen, which is the name of the Shadowfen estate,
Of course.
along with several other things that are sitting around here that I don't want walking off. Like the orb that I handed you, Selima, of creating undead things. Let's make sure that's locked up before we
Yes,
leave.
please.
Agreed. Speaking
Now-
of important things, did you hear about teleportation? Is that going to be a possibility?
Yes. We've secured a teleportation sigil, and I'm going to unwrap it.
I'm
Liv?
going to commit it to memory.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll hand it to her. So you have to I read up on this a little bit. We have to study it for a solid minute to be able to commit it to memory.
Perfect. I'm going to take that full minute.
Sounds good. At the end of that minute, you will have a teleportation circle to Vulcanos.
Okay. I'm going to jot that down.
Please do.
So, the proposal right now, so we don't have to spend a ridiculous amount of money on land, is that we bind this down in the hinterlands, which is a mountainous region to the south of my family's territory, where a lot of adventurers go to get their start.
Sounds reasonable.
Also feels like it would blend in quite easily at this point. GM, can you spell that teleportation circle?
Yeah. VUL.
VEL?
VUL.
Got it. Vol.
CANOS.
Vulcanos.
Vulcan.
That is very close to my hometown.
Perfect. Do you have anyone we can send word to? Or no, they know that we're going to be arriving soon. They don't necessarily have a timeline because I don't have a timeline to give. But yes, we can now teleport to Vulcanos. Either Liv or I will be able to get us there and back, should the need arise.
And essentially, we'll be receiving our armaments by the end of this week. I did request 3 cannons to be made and a multitude of black powder. So essentially, by at least the end of the week, we should receive those at least to the House of Indrik, where they could then send it to us at Vulcanos.
Would you prefer to go those ships out to us via teleportation circle, or do you want to oversee their transportation?
I believe I can trust the smith to make sure it gets to us safely, so I believe we should at least go out there. The sooner the better, because we still need to get a ship and also get the approval from the people that we're there to help.
Is that something we would have to petition?
Depending on how bad this is, yes.
Right. And you don't hold any noble standing there?
I mean, not that I'm aware of. I was on a ship for the most of the time, so I don't know if I'm very well known or not outside of my family.
Got it. Right.
And they won't
Okay.
know anything about you or me, so that's not going to help either.
No, they won't know anything about us at all. I don't have any resources that we can leverage here.
Unless we want to give him some money. How are your people with money?
Just like every other person.
Okay.
We have money. All right. I recommend that you gather up everything you can from the mansion. I know I'm going to spend some time doing that myself. And we start getting a bit organized. We can leave tomorrow.
That sounds like a good idea.
Is my mother still running around?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she's not. She left the mansion itself and probably looking around the grounds.
I'm going to spend some time actually emptying out the armory.
Okay.
And grabbing everything. And if you have any questions about what that is, I can go over a line item list with you.
We can take care of that at a different time. But
Yeah.
you're just basically clearing out valuables.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys spend the next, few hours, I'd say probably the remainder of the daylight time that you have kind of clearing out the space that you have, all the things that you had brought into the man. Easy enough to get them out and into the actual estate, considering the teleportation circles. Makes it easier. Don't have to walk very far, and by the time you exit, a cadre of servants are ready and willing to help out and put things into as much as possible. A few hours later,
The security at the house. Do I trust? Does Valerica trust that it is very well protected?
Oh yeah. Oh,
okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like kind of it will be safer here than on my person.
There are few places safer.
Okay. Then everything is getting transferred there.
Okay. Sounds good.
If what I usually carry on my person.
What's on your person. Got it. Okay. Cool. I'll make a note.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as you were concerned, yeah, there are very few places safer. In fact, you'd be hard pressed to find a place that's safer than isn't like the palace of Torrens.
Right.
Yeah. Your family's a little paranoid about things like that. Good reason.
And I'm gonna keep the components that we just invested in on me.
Okay.
For sure.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Where are you putting the League's gift?
There.
You're storing it there as well? Okay, cool. So, sounds good. Good. You spend some time kind of directing the servants in your household around to try and get things into storage without any problems. It takes a few hours to kind of clear everything out. Settled, but eventually your mansion is back to its kind of original barren state. Exactly as it used to be. Construct's still there and everything. And your mother finishes up at some point and starts kind of overseeing and directing people, estate proper, making sure everything goes under lock. Eventually, after a tiring few hours of moving house, you guys basically moved a 6-bedroom house mostly by yourselves.
Minus the furniture, of course.
Sure, minus the furniture, but eventually you do settle down and dinner is prepared and provided for you in the main dining hall of the estate.
And at the end of that, I am going to untether everybody from the Puzzle Box Mansion and give it to my mother.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. She kind of looks over it for a bit. Well, do you want to be here for the binding, or do you want to let me take care of it?
When do you think you're going to be doing it?
Probably in the morning. A bit late.
I'd like to be here for it.
Very well. Ensure that I speak to some of the guards and make vengeance and get one of our magic students to come and help out.
Speaking of magic students, how's the young girl?
Oh, Hannah?
Yeah.
Doing quite well.
You keeping tabs on her, or you let her go into the wilds?
Of course I'm. She's been assigned as an apprentice to one of the individuals in the story.
Yes, I heard. She's thriving? Surviving?
Adjusting.
Adjusting.
Should be doing well. It's only been what, 2 days?
Yes.
No, it'll take time. It will take time. Thankfully, there were people willing.
Good.
You know Jorga, she's lovely.
She is.
So, sure the girl will do just fine. But we'll keep tabs on it.
Good.
So, you lot are off tomorrow, Mystros?
Indeed.
Master
Anything
Ziegler,
you want while I'm there.
hopefully you can find me a trinket or two. Master Nightbane, Fergal, are you excited to be going back home?
I have mixed feelings. It has been a long time since I've been home, so I do not know.
Fair enough. Fair enough. It'd be difficult going home. Especially not when under the best circumstances.
Precisely.
But when you are ready, when you are ready to leave, let me know. Send word ahead.
Do
I
you
would
have any?
appreciate it.
Do you have contacts there that you can introduce us to? We don't have much of a network established, it seems.
I know of a few, but they're all local. But I'll meet you there.
Right.
I believe I can
Thank you,
probably
Mother.
find some old friends of yours as well, Fergal.
I'm sure I might be able to find some, but since it's been so long, I'm not sure if they're even still there.
Well, we'll see what we can. I'm sure we'll be able to get all of you settled in just fine. But for now, take the night, rest. We'll do the binding ritual in the morning, and then we can send you off. Yes?
Yeah. Sounds lovely. Thank you, Mother, for all your help.
Of course, darling. Happy to help you. We're friends.
Lady Indrik, I have a strange request.
That sounds about right. What can I do for you?
What, precisely. If you are able to come upon any spare scraps of metal or any type of metallic scraps themselves, I do request that you send them to me, especially if they are not usable.
Very well. See what I can do. I don't usually peddle in scrap, but... Well, I suppose one must branch out every once in a while. Try new things. Goodness knows I could do a hobby. The scrap
Exactly.
diving is it. No, I'll keep an eye out. Don't worry.
I appreciate it.
You lot have certainly got me. Quite a few things, haven't you?
Well, to be fair, one of them was gifted to us, Lady Indrik.
Rightly so. Be careful of gifts.
Do you have any insights you can share with us about this?
Well, I trust you in your judgment. Self. And? But... they like to think very long. They're not
Interesting.
reactive. Very little done. Well, as an organization, they're not particularly reactive. Very much done without a great deal of thought. Now, individuals don't get me wrong, they're still adventurers at heart. They can be impulsive, impetuous, spontaneous as anyone else, but the League as a whole, they always have something planned. You can only be removed from the so long before you have to find something to do.
Fair.
So just let me know if anyone contacts you. Yes?
Sure.
Curiosity, Lady Endrick. Knowing that what we did in Gravia caught their attention, would it be naive or would how do I want to phrase this? Would it be reasonable to assume that what we battled there, they placed there?
Unlikely. They're not wantonly destructive. And usually they're fairly good at cleaning their own messes. If they have them.
Okay. Just want to make sure my heroes aren't turning into some sort of terrible, horrible things.
What's new?
Well, don't forget, there is an aloofness that comes with you. If you don't form the types of attachments that, say, I have, you tend to stray from your sense of reality. Your sense of right and good and evil tends to twist a little. When you can
Understood.
change the fabric of reality on him, it becomes very tempting. Very alluring not to.
Baroness, you mentioned to notify you if any of them contact anybody
I did.
in this party.
Yes.
Were there any in particular we need to be watchful for?
Oh,
Ones that you would recommend
I-
us to steer clear of?
No, they don't. Individually, I have no sense of concern for patient. Send whoever is best for the time being, or whoever happens to be assigned. But no, none to look out for. Just I say let me know so I can keep tabs on.
Is there anything we can do tactically to get out of the situation? Or are we just kind of left to the whims of them?
For the time being, as you are now, you'd be very hard pressed to challenge them on anything. Maybe as a group you could handle a few time, but no, unless and until you become actual rivals to their power, I think you'd be best just keep going and see how this plays out. Besides, they've been looking for me to come and join the ranks for decades, so they're patient and they're not overly pushy about their requests. They're very tempting for most. So nothing I'm concerned about right now. All of you seem to have your own personal pursuits and goals. Easily distracted by so. Besides, as you are now, they won't have you join. They're probably just observing to see how you might progress in their estimation.
Fair.
Comes a time in any powerful person's life. Keep an eye out.
I'm going to head to bed.
I'm going to eat a little something and then do the same. We've got a long trip tomorrow, and we just did a lot of moving, so...
The estate is yours, as always. I have rooms prepared for you. So,
Is it my usual room?
we have a room prepared to your liking for each. And Lady Selima, we have a room both indoors and outdoors.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course. I do know the nights can get quite cold. Seek shelter. I have arranged for a lovely space for that.
I'll take a look. I'll take a look at it. I appreciate it, though.
Of course. For my guests, what kind of host would I be? What kind of noble would I be if I didn't treat you well? Well, eat, rest. The estate is yours. I myself will likely retire to my office. Try to find sleep. But
May it find you well.
thank you. I appreciate that. I hope it does for all of you as well. So, good night. Enjoy a meal. I will see you all in the morning.
Selima's gonna nod and bow.
It was kind of a deep. And she turns to leave, leaving you all in the dining hall. Just the four of you right now. Few servants kind of in the background.
To be fair, Thurgle, I've never really ventured out to sea. What are we to expect?
Well, since we are going straight to an island, we do not have to worry too much about it. But there is always the cabin fever, and there's always the various of.
Don't expect to be dry, I can tell you that much.
Yes, the humidity and the salt water can play havoc on your weapons and armor, so it's always routine to do maintenance every day, especially being on the islands themselves. Usually, make sure you clean and oil anything that is metal. That is very well advised. Speaking of, your bow, I'm sorry, I forget its name.
Zephyr. Yes.
Zephyr, yes. I spent so much with Zephyr, I apologize for not remembering. Is Zephyr sort of considered a simple weapon, or is it magical?
It's a magical weapon.
Yeah, it's magical.
Magical. Okay.
Deeply and very powerfully magical.
Question for DM.
Yeah.
I do have artificer infusions. Am I able to do an infusion on?
I don't believe you can do it on a magic item. I believe it has to be a mundane item that you imbue with a magical power.
Okay. All right, just asking. So as we came back, I did see there was significant damage to some of the property. Was that through what Zephyr can do now?
Yes, actually.
Good, so it was all worthwhile then.
Zephyr has a few new tricks, which are quite surprising, and I've never had to harness that level of power before. So, we'll see.
Looking forward to seeing you unleash it.
As long as I can maintain it where I need it to go. Safely.
Precisely. So I did notice, at least at one point, there was a huge scar in the earth. What caused that?
So I'm actually able, with Zephyr, to control a massive whirlwind, like a tornado, and actually move it to a different
Exciting.
direction.
I will say, I have experienced a few tornadoes in the water, and they are just phenomenal. They are quite a sight to behold and quite devastating. So
If it can be of any use, believe me.
may come in handy when we are on the water itself.
I mean, it did quite a bit of damage. I'll need to make a new dummy. Bless you.
No worries about that. Liv,
Dargle.
what would you prefer? Do you have a bow that you never want to really reload? Or do you want your daggers to return to you?
You know, that's a very interesting question. Because I have all of those. But you know, I tend to use my crossbow the most out of everything. So if I could save myself some time on a reload, that would be highly convenient.
All right. So that is a light. I'm going to take her crossbow and use one of my artificer's infusions for repeating shot.
Okay.
That is crossbow light. Yes.
Yep.
So this magic weapon grants a +1 bonus to attack and damage rolls made with it when it's used to make a ranged attack, and ignores the loading property if it has it.
Okay.
If you load no ammunition in the weapon, it produces its own, automatically creating one piece of magic ammunition when you make a ranged attack with it. The ammo created by the weapon vanishes instantly after it hits or misses the target.
So the fact that I have +1 arrows for my ammunition, what does that do?
That's a good question for DM because it does not specify.
I mean, if you were to use +1 bolts with it, you'd still get the +1 from the bolts independently of the weapon's statistics.
Gotcha. So I don't have bolts right now for +1. I have standard bolts and then I have +1 arrows. So now I know I need to invest in some +1 bolts.
Okay.
Perfect.
And Selima, do you have any daggers or darts or hand axe?
I actually do. I do have a couple of things, actually. A dagger and a short sword and a quarterstaff.
All right, I am going to give you the infusion of returning weapon to your dagger, which grants a +1 bonus to attack and damage rolls, and it returns to your hand immediately after it's used to make a ranged attack.
Okay.
Selima, I know that Valerica and Thurgle here tend to be more of the magic users. And while I do have some magic, I do tend to use weapons similar to yourself. How often do you use a blade versus your bow?
Hunting, cleaning, medical purposes, things like that, typically.
Because I
Harvesting.
very rarely use mine. So if we're going to be making sure that we're all best possibly equipped for what we're walking into, I'd like for you to use this, and I'm going to give Selima my oil of sharpness.
Okay. That's good.
Okay.
So yeah, you can go ahead and add an oil of sharpness for in. What's great is you can add it to your arrows.
Oh,
Or
okay,
any of your
cool.
blades. It'll work on a slashing or piercing weapon, or up to 5 pieces of slashing or piercing ammunition. And so for what, an hour, it's a +3 to attack and damage.
Just so that people know as well, I do have an amulet of health, if anybody wants that in particular.
I think I'm actually good for now.
And Liv, I know you use bows and things like that. I do have my original longbow as well. My vicious longbow.
I am currently carrying a longbow already. Can you tell me what more about it so I can maybe make a informed decision of which I should take?
It says when you roll a 20 on your attack roll with this magic weapon, the target takes an extra 7 damage of this weapon's type. The range is 150 to between 600 feet. It's a d8 plus 6 piercing damage. Blue rare.
You know, I would be happy to take that off your hands, and I will leave this longbow behind. Maybe it'll end up in our baby dungeon at some point.
Baby dungeon, whatever.
And what's it called again?
Vicious longbow.
Thank you very much.
And just for note's sake, what bow are you leaving behind? Just a generic longbow?
It's a +1.
Okay. Cool. Got it.
No. Okay.
Okay,
Well, I'm well fed. I'm gonna head off to sleep.
sounds good. All right, so everyone gonna turn in?
I'm going to see if the kitchen might have any preserved foods, just in case, so that I don't have to watch Liv eat some sort of rancid bread roll.
You guys will have you'll have trail rations. Don't worry.
Fantastic. I mean, otherwise
I'd
I can
say
always hunt and things.
You guys
but...
have a plethora of resources right now. You're not exactly struggling, so I'd say each of you, if you are running low on rations, bump yourself up to 10 days worth. So. Okay.
All right, then, yes. I'm going to go take a look at that room.
Ah, the room. Got it. Okay, so exploring the estate. You are led by your companions, all kind of going to their own rooms. To one room in particular that, as you open it, you see it appears to be larger inside than it is out. You look through, you see a grassy floor, you see what looks like a bit of a clearing forest. You look up and you can see the night sky. Look around and there's no outside sound that you can. It's very quiet, but it looks like it's outside. Go ahead and make a perception check.
Yeah. I'll throw my dice. Passive is 17.
Okay.
17.
17? Okay. You're pretty sure it's an illusion, but it's a really convincing one. It's a really convincing one. You step inside and there's even like a temperature. It's not like the interior like smell changes. There's no like torch light. There's no like torch smell. It's kind of fresh. This is a pretty grand illusion. As you're kind of walking around, you kind of bump into one of the walls and you realize that it is just an illusion. It's still a small space, but it looks larger and the space is comfortable. Pretty convincing outdoor area.
Pull a blade of grass. Smell it, taste it.
It just kind of passes through. It is still illusory. For sure. As you kind of grab at it, it's illusory. There is a mossy rock that is there. You kind of touch it, and you realize that the rock portion is an illusion, but there's something hard there that you're sleeping on, or would be. So, it looks as though they have accommodated your space,
which I appreciate greatly.
which you're free to take or not. So,
I think I'll try it for the night.
okay, sounds good. As you close the door, you realize it might be a little hard to get out in the morning. You're gonna have to feel around for that door because it closed and the perfectly, no seam.
I'm gonna call out Adair too to just kind of be there, and I don't think you saw the door. You're gonna help me find it in the morning, though.
Motions towards you. Thurgle, in your room, there's several types of hammocks that have been set up. So you've got plenty of space. Valerica, your room is comfortable as always. It's all yours. It's even got some of your favorite books in it. Plenty of writing equipment, plenty of things to read. Liv, yours is a simple but still slightly opulent affair. It's elegant. You've noticed a couple of touches that look a little more like your home. A little bit of the cut and design of some of the things are a little closer.
Just like I like it. Perfect.
But you all go to sleep. And thankfully... What's up, Thurgle?
I wasn't going to go to sleep just yet.
Okay. What are you doing?
I was going to go back to the cage momentarily if I could actually no.
You have
We
been
have this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so never mind on that part. That will be another day. But I am going to cast Spirit Guardians level 3 into my ring of store spelling.
Spellhorn?
Spell
Okay. Got it.
So I have that in there as well.
Cool.
And I'm going to take a ritual to commune with Hephaestus.
Oh, okay. So communing. All right. So, settling into your space as your friends retire for the evening. Set up your circle where you can commune, burning the familiar incense. That smell of the flesh takes over the room. Feel the warmth. Settle in meditation. You can hear in the distance soft fire, occasional of distant echoing, but you feel like you're in the presence. So, what are your questions?
Hephaestus, thank you for granting me with your presence this evening. I appreciate everything you have provided me. I ask for these 3 questions to be answered. My first question, with returning to the islands, is it a necessity to visit my family before embarking on our endeavor?
A moment passes, and as you tune yourself around, feel the fire inside. As you're listening, feeling out, feel the sounds quieter, fire, cooler. Not a necessity.
Thank you. In all of my endeavors that I have done for Mystros and being their privateer, have I a name to be able to... I do not know how to word. Do they know me in Mystros?
As you feel space, finish your question, feel a blaze as though a bellows have been blown fire as it flares. I feel like you can almost catch the glimpse of catch on the room around you. You hear the resounding sound of metal ringing and echoing around. They know you.
Lastly, I ask this with a heavy heart. Would they approve of me sinking our iron ship?
As the space once again settles, you feel from the fire a flickering. Feels not like it's getting cooler, but it's struggling to burn. Fuel is there. You hear the once consistent sound, the hammering, discordant, churish, unsteady.
Thank you, Hephaestus, for granting me with your presence and answering my questions.
Feel and absurd sound. Bell ends. The room returns as the last link scent of the forge fades, replaced by the incense that you've. Quiet, dark.
Well, fuck. I'm going to pick a hammock, not particular which one, and I am going to try my best to sleep through the anxiety.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. All right. But the rest of you, unless you have plans, turn in. Perfect.
I do some light reading, eat a piece of bread, and then go to sleep.
Okay, sounds good. Late night snack.
I'm specifically reading the books that I pulled on the Ingrivar dynasty, trying to start piecing some pieces together.
Okay, sounds good. I'll feed you some people. You all settle in for the night. Some of you with some unease. You're still coming fresh off of your time with the guys, but you will eventually settle in. No vision, no whispers, no people attempting to contact you or otherwise invade your space and time. And you awake with the dawn, feeling refreshed, having taken your rest, ready to deal with whatever the day comes. Breakfast is prepared and ready. It is. Erica, your servants are on point. Your kitchen
What's
staff.
for breakfast?
What's for breakfast? It is a plethora of smoked meats, some cheeses, a variety of different grain-based porridges. Obviously, maybe about a dozen different types of breads, different butters, different milks, liquid bread. You've got all kinds of fun, hearty, well-made, but designed for very active people.
Liv definitely needs to understand what liquid bread is, so that's the first thing she's going to eat for breakfast. Because what is that?
Okay, all right. Yeah, you grab a kind of a mug of this stuff. It smells very kind of yeasty, very kind of hoppy, and it's kind of a beer like drink, but it feels heavier. Like it's a little thicker. It's dense. It doesn't feel kind of vapid, and it's not particularly intoxicating. It's all right, but you can see how you could drink this and be set for a while.
Guys, I feel like I feel like Uther would have really enjoyed this.
Probably. You guys miss him.
Of course.
Very much so.
And Thea. They're fun.
He was not a great healer. She was fantastic.
Well, at least now we know where his god stands, huh?
Yeah, I've never heard of a healing storm.
Yeah, he was more of a combat cleric than anything else.
I think when I'm identifying clerics from here on out, if I'm looking for healing clerics, that's going to be one of the first things I ask is, what god do you worship and in what way?
I think that's fair.
There are no anti-discrimination laws in the Adventuring League Requisition Office.
Just clarification.
Clarification. Got it. But you awake to your breakfast. You spend some time eating. The servants bring you a variety of things to fill your bellies for hard work and travel. And eventually, Valerica's mother, Baroness Idric, comes down. Wonderfully opulent clothing. Incredibly well made, but still weirdly practical. Probably run them doing it. And still look fabulous by the end of it. Comes down.
I would like to ask the servants before she comes in, like, which things would be good to, like, long term. Like, what can I stash in my bag for the trip?
They kind of look at the surroundings and they kind of point out, you know, a few cheeses, some of the harder breads might do well. Some of the dried meats that are available.
Perfect.
Okay, just you grab, call it, I don't know, plenty of food.
You know,
Yeah,
Liv,
we'll
she
call
needs
it-
her friend cheese.
Yeah, we'll call it 4 days worth of rations. That works.
I'll take my normal to-go bag.
You guys have plenty of food. You guys aren't starving anytime soon. Unless something terrible happens, in which case.
Good morning, Mother.
Good
Looking
morning.
fabulous as always.
Good morning, everybody, and you flatter me, darling. So, did everyone sleep okay? No trouble?
Just trouble finding the door.
I apologize.
Trouble finding the door. Why couldn't you find your door?
It was a wonderful and very masterful illusion. Had I not really tried to pluck the grass,
Lady Indric, did you hallucinatory terrain her?
Of a sort. Not quite hallucinatory terrain. A few spells here and there. They enough to quite some time. A couple major illusions here, major images. Yes, a little
Next
bit
time
of
you need to
hallucinatory
build
terrain.
the door with some magical little markers for
But
her.
that would break the illusion. I was Lima comfortable, secure.
At
Much
least
as
you
you might
didn't
love
break
sleeping
the
outside,
scenario.
it's not the safest.
I do appreciate that. It took Adair and I a wee bit of time to find it, though.
I will make
But-
sure to put something in it.
You could
I
make it a
appreciate it.
cave.
He's
I
onto
prefer
something.
I prefer the open air. But
I mean the doorway.
Doorway.
Make it look like cave entrance.
An inspired idea. Well, should you ever desire to sleep indoors again, I'll ensure to put a more clear mark.
I appreciate it nonetheless. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, as you're all ready, we can get on with the binding and send you all off. Sound good?
Sounds great.
All right. So, after breakfast, she gathers you all up, and you are all accompanied to one of the carriages. It takes you maybe a half hour or so outside of the estate. You see kind of a few of them are all there. Only one about as lavish as yours. A couple of the others look a little practical and rugged, a little more commonplace. But eventually you come to a tract of land that looks fairly flat.
So on our travel in the carriage.
Yeah.
I'm going to mention to the group my commune with Hephaestus.
Okay.
So last night I did speak with Hephaestus, and he had informed me apparently I do have some name in Mystros.
Is it a good name or a bad name?
He did not specify, but I have a name. I'm well known.
Given your prowess, I'd imagine that the people of your town know of you. I mean, you don't do the things we do without gaining some amount of notoriety.
Precisely.
Were you
So,
on the right side of the law or the wrong side there?
I was a privateer, so I was hired by our government to keep the waters safe.
Then I imagine it's a good thing.
You know, you've told me your people are somewhat similar to mine. They may sail island to island, but they don't go far. So you're famous for that, I would suppose.
To say the least. But I also did ask him about his approval of destroying the ship we're going after. And there was really no positive or negative of whether or not the islands themselves would actually approve of it. So we may have to, well, I may have to rethink my strategy on what we're doing.
May just be they're not ready yet, but if that's the right choice, then they're going to have to come to terms with it.
Of course.
Can you damage it and repair it?
In order to
Kill the
eliminate it,
person. Wait, can't we just kill this person and then take the ship?
it depends on the loyalty of the crew.
We can kill all of them.
It would depend on how capable the crew is. His first mate seemed very capable.
We just took out a god.
Yeah, but I do find humans to be less predictable.
We were one-on-one with a god with half forms of ourselves. This is someone I've been fighting my entire life almost on the seas, who has gained this notoriety plus such a beautiful ship. These things
Save the
themselves.
ship, because if it's not some relic that your people are taking, I certainly want it.
It is just something we will have to evaluate, whether or not they will appreciate what we do to it.
I'll follow your lead, as I know nothing of your people or culture.
I was going to ask, is there cultural significance behind them? Are we not to technically know of them? Are we supposed to... Is it revered like godlike vessels? I try to be in somewhat understanding the culture before I'm walking into it.
Of course, most ships are made of wood, yes?
The ones
Yeah.
I've been on.
These ships are very unique to Mystros because of the fact that they are actually made of metal.
Oh god, are we going to an entire island of people like you, smelly and metal-ridden?
Not completely, but we are diverse.
Oy.
These ships
Carry
themselves...
lavender oil if it bothers you, or spray him with it when he's not paying attention.
We like this one.
just at least keep that cleaning orb close by. I've grown to like it.
It is on my person constantly now.
But these ships are crafted by the best blacksmith mages, and they are essentially a floating forge to protect the islands themselves. So the fact that this asshole has taken control of one is unique on its own. And it is unfortunate it fell upon his hands, because until I came up with my own new inventions, they're very unsinkable.
How many of these ships do you have? Or your people have?
DM, how many ships do we have?
3.
That's what I thought. Yes, we have 3 of them altogether, so he has control of 1.
And you think that your cannons can take it down?
I am very confident with the last vision I had that they would be capable.
And your rival, do you know what type of power they fight with? Are they a magic user? Do they brawl? Do they
He's never
stab?
revealed himself to me directly. I've only known him as the captain of the Gray Siren, is the ship he used to captain before he overtook the metal one. I've only known him as the most dangerous pirate out there on the seas, never really interacting with him until he killed my last crew.
What is that fucker?
Yes, it is him. I still don't know how I survived, but I managed to make it out alive.
So, what do we know about him? He's the former captain of the Gray Siren. We don't know his physical abilities.
I just know that he carries an entire bandolier full of blades, so I'm assuming he's very adept at throwing them and utilizing them in close combat.
Okay.
Whether they have magic capabilities, at this point I don't know.
How proficient do you think he might be, or are your people in poisons?
Some people along the coast might have some proficiency dealing with various pufferfish and eels.
So we have to plan for that just in case.
Yes.
So, we're talking tactics. What's the biggest and baddest that everyone can offer in this? For incapacitation, or removing one person from an impenetrable environment.
My first thought was fabricating, using my spell Fabricate at the bottom of the hull and sinking that motherfucking ship.
That's why you were asking if it'd be okay if you destroyed it.
Yes. Yes, it was.
So
From the staff, I have an ability to create a wall of force that I can bend around a creature for a period of 10 minutes and move it, I believe. No, I cannot move it. But if we can move the ship from him, then he will be suspended. And forcibly removed.
Whatever happened to the rod of immovability?
We do have it, but I mean, it's pull it out of my bag and just click it in the air.
Are you actually doing that?
For like half a second. Then
Okay, yeah, you click it and it immediately just starts drifting back as the carriage keeps moving
we're in a
forward.
carriage, yeah.
Yeah, unclick
Gotta
it.
grab it quickly and click it.
Because if anything, we could always plant that fucker on the hull.
It might tear through some of the metal. I mean, here, Thurgle, why don't you hold it, and I'll toss you the immovable rod.
I will place that in my bag.
Go ahead and add it to your inventory. I'm going to remove it from mine.
I don't necessarily have anything that will remove one of them from their environment, but I do always have the ability to open a dimension door to transport us immediately onto the ship if it's close enough by.
Well, you all know about my new ability, Whirlwind, but I do actually have an ability, if you're all willing, to have everyone for an hour have the ability to walk on water.
Helpful.
I'll say this one has his Cloak of the Manta Ray, and I actually have a spell of water breathing now, so we could always go under the ship as well.
The nice thing about this ability, too, is if we're submerged, it will jettison you up to the surface as well, once I cast it.
Once we're on the water, I'd be a lot more comfortable if we had that ability. Also, in terms of rapidly getting on the ship, I can teleport 30 feet.
So I have my Misty Step for that as well, but Dimension Door I can open for anyone to use.
Misty Step. So you and I both have Misty Step then.
Correct.
So that'll be helpful. I also have the ability to charm a person.
Yeah,
now, granted,
With Dimension Door, I can bring one of you along with me, so I can bring if we have to split up and two of us are under and two of us are above, I can always transport him in with me, depending on.
And greater invisibility, which I prefer to use when we're in close quarters because I can maintain invisibility and move around a lot easier rather than being in someone's face that likes to stab me.
A good skill to have.
So, we have some options here.
And I feel we must have multiple options to be able to best handle this.
By the way, I think there's something I just learned that could be very helpful.
Do tell.
You guys know about this, and I'm gonna kind of whip my hand and pull out the draconic, mage hand.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine that, but about 10 feet across, that can punch things when I ask it to, and transport us around as well.
Sounds fascinating.
I'm looking forward to playing with it. Takes a lot of energy to do. It's not necessarily the cap of my abilities, but it would be something very helpful. And it can fight with us.
It's kind of like a spirit weapon.
In some ways, yes. More similar to that.
A spirit weapon and a carriage all rolled into one.
Mm-hmm. And it can block. It can get in between people. It can interpose itself between combatants and provide shelter.
This is sounding better by the moment.
It's a very interesting ability.
So I will say...
It can also just shove someone off, so if this captain's standing on the ship, I can literally just summon this hand to throw him off. Exactly.
If anyone, I am actually more concerned with his first mate.
Alright, so what do we know about the first mate?
Absolutely nothing. But
Okay,
he is a tall
great.
elven creature.
Okay.
Serious question for you, Thurgle. I know you have a plan to destroy the ship, but if there was a way to save the ship and take care of the problem on board, would you go with that plan first, or would you still want to put the ship down? Because it's better for us to know what you're going to plan going into it, so we're not on it when you decide it's time to go down.
Let's just say plan B is to sink the fucker.
Okay.
Plan D. Can we try to front load our options? Because I like this ship. It sounds like it's culturally relevant to your people. Let's just put it a little lower on our list.
Of course, plan B is just the generic name of this is the last shit I'm going to do before everything else fails.
Gotcha. Let's try to get some other plans in there, because I think one way that we can do it is by using charm magic. And just try to see how far we can get in terms of deception, so we're not dealing with outright combat.
Well, if we can...
Are you feeling okay?
It's a pretty toy and I don't want to break it.
Needless to say, I'm sure, as you've all been with me, I'm not particularly charming. Unfortunately, in many cases, I'm
Well,
far
if we
more
can find-
blunt than that.
If we can find out who the first mate is, I can always disguise myself as the fucker.
And
do it to sneak.
I can cast
Loyalty.
Charm Person, so we might have some versatility there. I can also just polymorph this thing into a sea slug and we just drop him off and drive away with the ship.
I'm always for that one. We could always turn him into a turtle as well.
Turtles can go very quickly. Let's not go with a turtle. That has bit me in the ass quite literally before. No
How
turtle.
about a tortoise then? It won't do so well in the water.
No, it won't. It needs to be able to survive in the water and be hardy enough, but not fast. So, jellyfish or sea slug?
Why not sea sponge?
We could do sea sponge. That is fine. Also
But
an
what is
anemone.
culturally insulting to your people that would get at him at that point?
Ooh, I like this plan.
Culturally insulting.
I like the way you think, Salima.
Thurgle says with a huge smile on his face, Bard.
Hello to you too, father.
As you say this, the carriage just and you're sorry.
Can I make a perception check to see if that person can hear what we're saying and is laughing at what Thurgle just said?
Yeah, go ahead.
It was 17.
16 for me.
Not sure, probably not, but you know, it was a fun coincidence.
But in all reality, if this ship is going down and we're on it, let's try to get in stealthily and draw 99% of a teleportation circle before we start combat, so at any point we can run up to it and finish the circle.
I think this is a good plan.
I think
But
plans
better
and
go-
communication are going to go better with combat getting more complicated. Just putting it out there.
What?
I agree, but I also know that the best laid plans also go to shit once combat starts.
Right. That's why I'm trying to give us several.
Also,
There were a couple things that I was intending to happen or clarify in the last couple big fights that we've been in that I assumed you guys knew, and I'm realizing now that we need to communicate because you cannot see what I am thinking. And if we yell our plans in front of the enemies, they know the plans too.
one thing we can think is subterfuge.
Okay.
Get word out that there is a big bad fleet coming after that ship.
Draw it out somewhere.
Draw it out or scare the crew. If they have no crew, they have no power.
Interesting.
And the first mate is usually the one keeping up the morale, so...
And if they cannot keep up morale, they cannot keep a crew.
I must say, the temptation to just handle this whole thing invisibly and have a giant dragon claw sweep the deck of this ship off all of the crew members is very tempting.
You know, that plus some hallucinatory terrain and freak them out with some interesting visions while they're up there could also be very handy.
We never play the game of psychological warfare. I'm intrigued.
Quite fun.
Great.
I
I'm willing to
also
try it.
have a not much in the way of that, but I do have the potion of mind reading as well.
You know, you do have that tornado, though. That could add a lot of fear to go along with a scary dragon hand and inability to understand where you are physically.
Could we make it seem like a divine instance is occurring to scare the crew? How superstitious are sea folk?
Oh, guys, he's told me so many stories. This is a brilliant plan.
How superstitious would they be?
What
Giant
god
dragon
can we
thing?
kind of leverage? What? No, let's not offend the gods. What archmage or patron can we
Or
portray
even demon.
that would terrify your people?
I do know that some believe Poseidon has not been very happy recently.
Find that. Would he actually throw a clawed hand at people?
What if we find a way to have an illusion of a giant trident in its hand?
I think we can do that. Let's coordinate. We can do this. This can work. I like
think
this
we're
idea.
killing our DM.
That was great.
I do
That's
think-
fantastic.
I
And
do
that's-
think if we use the Theos, god of the tempest, they might be a little afraid of that.
I'm so excited right now.
We don't pull the wrath of an actual god by saying we're acting on their behalf. Or if we can just at least convince a cleric that we're doing some good work on that god, let's just get some sort of clearance.
In essence, as long as we don't really say we're Theos and we just make like there's a tempest, they'll put the one and one together.
And
All
they'll
right.
get fired.
Exactly. They are sailors.
I believe I can design the hand as I conjure it, so are there any emblems that you could tell me of this? Perhaps a logo?
It is actually going to be a claw-shaped lightning bolt.
Well, doesn't that just sound perfect?
That does.
Do you have
Yeah.
lightning arrow?
I think we have a pretty solid plan forming here.
I'm so excited for this.
You realize with water walking, we can just stand on the water while we control all of this.
Yes, I do.
It's going to be so fun.
This
The
is going to be
planning is the
amazing.
only reason why I've survived so long. So as long as we can try to steer the plan in the direction that we're hoping for.
Okay, so
the first things first, we must establish where they have been seen in port, how we can get a hold of the crew and plant the bug in their ear that Theos has not been happy with what they've been doing. Then we can start inciting that fear to make them not want to be a part of it.
You find out where they are. Leave the rest of that to me.
Since they essentially know me, you all would be the ones to have to spread this rumor.
Between suggestion and the ability to persuade most people to do anything, I'm
there's
ready.
another. So, Thurgle, when we're there, since you are someone that is well known, I suggest we disguise you. I can help with that.
You're not going to make me taller, are you?
No. We'll do whatever
She's
you want. I don't
disguising
really.
you, not performing a miracle.
I should add an inch to him just to piss him off.
But where?
When it counts.
Just one leg.
One leg.
I was going to say his pinky finger.
Just one really long. Could you imagine? Just one really long finger.
So here's what what I can offer, with the hand spell that I can bring in. I can shape the hand to look like what we need it to look like, and control it. And I control it as a bonus action, so I can also, shoot lightning, which is not something I do that often because I prefer fire. Let's be real, fire is just all the more glorious. But if we're just staying with a lightning theme, I can switch to lightning and just shoot lightning bolts the same way that Uther did.
I think that's a great idea.
Now, I have to mention, though, I can only use this whirlwind once a day.
We just need to really plan it. Now, I think Liv should be the mouthpiece. I think we put Liv.
I'm sure she could.
I think we put Liv invisible. Oh, I can't hold invisibility in the hand at the same time. All right, we'll figure something else out. But we make Liv be the speaker, let her distract everyone, and the rest of us just wreak havoc to support as she's getting angry with them and explaining their transgressions against this. What is it? The name? Theos.
Do we want to use another god's name and run the risk of angering one? And having an actual tempest arrive?
I don't have to say that I am Theos. I can say, this is your god. I am very displeased. See, I do a pretty good Thurgle language interpretation there. Be fine.
Say, what kind of instruments do you have with you? Because you can use them and play them shrilly.
I have so many. I have bagpipes, a pan flute, a viol, and my Folklican bandicore. So
bagpipes might do some fear.
Oh yes, bagpipes can be very screechy if played improperly.
Oh, then they'll let you play them then.
Maybe I should let you play them.
When we're doing this in the beginning, I can conjure various illusions around you as you're speaking to really give you the credibility of an otherworldly presence.
I do have prestidigitation myself as well.
I'm thinking about minor and major illusions.
Alright. And I do have my deck of illusions as well.
That would be a perfect time to use it.
So, Thurgle, serious question again for you here. Because you do have your Cloak of the Manta Ray and your very specific set of skills, would you be comfortable letting us try to handle this on the surface, and if we fail, I use my sending stone and you rip a hole from the bottom. So that you're ready with that plan B.
I do like that idea. I am just hesitant because I do feel like I want to be the one to plunge my trident into that fucker's chest.
Which
I
one?
can still save him for you.
The captain. Or as his hat was telling, he has promoted himself to Commodore.
Focus ours.
Self-promotions. I don't think that's how, whatever.
What?
I just don't think you can give yourself promotions. I think someone else has to promote you.
Yes.
If you're giving yourself... Alright, whatever.
Yes, you
Unless
have to
everyone
be
else is
promoted,
dead.
But when you're a buccaneer, you don't care.
As you guys are talking, you realize that the carriage has been stopped for a good 2 or 3 minutes.
We should probably get on with this.
And the door has opened, and the driver is just standing, waiting.
Jeffers, you never cease to impress me.
Alright, well, let's disguise this fool
Thank
before
you,
we
Mom.
step onto the circle.
And I'm gonna get out of the,
Okay.
out of the carriage.
You see already the other carriages have kind of stopped there. You realize that a contingent of kind of estate guards is there. Valerica, you see your mother, the Baroness, standing there with a a kind of middle-aged human-looking male, kind of got a light beard, a little bit of gray in his black hair, wearing kind of like lavish loose robes with a kind of a book in hand. You see he has the puzzle box in his other as your mother is talking.
Do I recognize him?
Yeah, you know him. He's one of the wizards that works for your family.
Name?
Norix.
Norix.
Pretty decent wizard. Trustworthy. Worked for your family for a while.
I'm gonna go make sure that no one messes with our house. It's gonna beeline over there.
Yeah, you I don't know. Your mother's, busy talking about the logistics and Norix is preparing. Looks over at you. Ah.
Hello.
How are you, darling? Good trip?
Productive.
Good.
Yes.
Good. So, ready to begin?
Yes. And I'm gonna motion for the rest of them to come join us.
Okay, see Valerica motion you over. So, Master Norix, by your leave. Thank you.
Master Norix, can you explain to me a little bit about the process of what you're doing? You don't have to RP this. I just want Valerica to know, so if she has to replicate, she can do it too.
Fair enough.
Is there anything specific that we're all going to be doing?
He looks over at each of you. It will essentially be a slightly, from my understanding, I've been permitted to study the item for quite some time. All of an hour or two. But my understanding is it's simply a few modified spells here or there that I would need to cast, a little bit of planar binding, a couple of other things that just have to be changed to affect an object. None of you are required in this regard, so I will be walking about half a mile that way or so to ensure that we're all outside of the radius, and then casting the spell from there.
Well, Valerica, I'm gonna go get this one all disguised up with a spell. See if we can figure out that he won't complain about looking like.
Liv, the phantom steed that you can bring in,
Yes.
do you have it available today, and can other people ride it?
I do have it available today, and it says for the duration, you or a creature of your choice can ride the steed.
Right. Would you mind if
for
me?
an hour?
would you mind if Norix and I borrow the steed so I don't have to walk half a mile?
Sure, and I cast Phantom Steed.
Right.
Okay.
Norix?
Ah, well, thank you very much. Expedite the walk quite tremendously.
I'm going to be accompanying you while you do this endeavor to get some hands-on learning experience, as I will likely have to do it again.
Indeed. Well, very well. He mounts the horse and
I'm going to take it and hop on.
ready?
Indeed.
Excellent.
I'm gonna pop a dare.
Okay.
And have him just kind of check overhead too, just
Okay.
for some eyes and above.
And I'm going to pull Sparks and have Sparks sit with Selima.
Sounds good. You ride forward, and he's kind of looking around, and then eventually he kind of stops. You guys get there real fast. Phantom Seed is bloody fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys get there really quick. But eventually he hops off the steed, offers you a hand down.
I
and
take it.
He places the box on the ground. So, if you would like to oversee this, I'm not sure if somebody of your particular magical persuasion would be able to replicate this.
Interesting.
But
Does this fall more in the wizarding school rather than the power through bloodline?
yes,
I
it's
see.
more learned or divine than it would be imbued by the blood.
Okay.
But the methods are the same, and if you find that you have need of doing it yourself or somebody else, an inscribed scroll may work as well. But I'll go through the process with you as we begin.
Cool.
Excellent. So he spends the next few minutes preparing various components, a couple of gems here and there. You recognize bits and pieces of different spells being borrowed.
Mm-hmm.
And he spends a short time with looks like a tuning to the object. He's kind of walking you step by step, place these things here, this is how you perform this, this is what he's learned kind of from the puzzle box itself, what he's doing with the whole process. And then eventually, as he finishes one final incantation, you blink and you are suddenly indoors in a familiar space. From the rest of you, you see in the distance a very familiar looking mansion just pop into existence, a couple of trees, and you notice closer by are several carved stone pillars in a kind of a sphere, spaced out, a couple 100 feet apart, but you can kind of see them, looking like this would be about the boundary line for where the previous radius and area had access to would be. It seems like there's some kind of built-in mark for it. Valerica, within you see your puzzle box mansion, and above the mantelpiece set into the wall is the cube.
Is that to remain here?
Yes, I believe the cube will remain within. It is the focal anchor point. Should you wish to reverse the effects, simply perform a similar series of steps, and everything within puzzle once again.
Right. Since this is outside of my domain of magic and influence,
Yes,
we will likely require this again.
I'm more than happy to.
Wonderful.
So, I believe we still have some time left on the steed. Shall we return?
We should, yes, absolutely.
Excellent. You both mount and run back. You also notice, kind of at the boundary line, you pass by the teleportation circle, which is there, now out in the open. Yeah. You see the trees. You look back in even the lake that you had available is kind of carved into the ground. Looks very similar. It's for the most part fit the topography of the area around you. It wasn't perfectly flat, but it seems like it's meshed well with the surrounding area. Some parts are a little more elevated than others. The the shape of the lake has changed ever so slightly to fit some of the hills that were there. But you run back on the steed.
So it seems like everything was projected rather than more land mass was added, correct?
Yeah, it seems like it just kind of fit in its space, and that's just there we go.
Okay.
And you also see the stone markers that denote the boundary line of the space that you have.
Okay.
But you return to the group. And your mother looks over at both of you. It went well?
Seems to have, yes.
Excellent. And she kind of snaps
Mother-
her fingers, and the continual guards immediately start heading towards the
There's one construction that I would very much appreciate if you made, and specific guard posting. The teleportation circle, I would really like that not to be common knowledge for
already
everyone.
taken care of, yeah.
Like, let's trap, conserve, everything we can to make sure the common, I don't know, rabbit doesn't find it and learn how to use it.
Understood. I'm glad you're thinking ahead. Don't worry, I've taken care of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Master Norix. I appreciate your time and your help. Cannot give information. Always happy to serve. And like I said, the guards kind of just head off immediately towards the mansion. They seem to start taking up postings and doing a little patrol, setting up. As the Baroness looks at all of you. So, it's here. To be stable. I will have the construction begin immediately. I'll set up guard posts, don't worry, that's why I brought some allies here.
Thank you.
So while that was happening, I was taking the time to cast Disguise Self into the Ring of Spell Storing so that Thurgle can use it on his self, and that way he could spend that time deciding what he wants to look like so he can't bitch at the rest of us when he doesn't like it.
Okay, sounds good. So he can cast himself. Got it. Understood. Okay. But she looks at the rest of you. So, you ready to go?
I believe we are, yes.
Shall we to this teleportation cycle, or would you prefer to walk back? Or ride back?
Let's just use this one, it's closer.
Would be
Save
good-
us some power and energy.
a good test to see if it still works.
Indeed. As we kind of walk over, I'm gonna point out all the things that I saw. Like, I believe these stones mark the boundaries, so everybody knows.
We'll keep everything within the boundary lines. And we'll do some surveying to see if it goes to a certain height or depth.
Perfect.
We'll keep it in mind. Usually these things tend to be symmetrical. So, since you all kind of start walking, kind of looks around. It is lovely to just walk, isn't it?
It is. I'm imagining like tall pine trees and kind of like those crystal rivers and brooks coming down from like, you know, Swedish mountains, and it's like perfectly
It's-
pristine and clean.
It's definitely very crisp, very clean. You can see the Dragonspine Mountains off in the distance. You can see the woods as well across the river, far off in the distance. It's a familiar and comfortable space that you're in. It's lovely. It is clean and pristine and clear. Comfortable and familiar for you, Valerica. And for
Yeah.
the rest of you, quite pleasant. Quite a pleasant stroll out. You know, nice sunny day. Still a little chilly, you know, it's winter. But eventually you do make your way to the teleportation circle. Thurgle.
So for clarification, my ring of spell storing is actually currently full,
Okay.
No, I have one too.
but you said you cast it in mine, so
I said I cast it in mine, and then I'm going to let you use my ring.
that takes attunement. I have a scroll of disguise stealth. So you don't have to waste that. I'm going to use my scroll.
Well, alrighty then.
Cool. Alright. Are you going to use it before you go?
Yes.
Okay. What are you disguising yourself as?
I'm going to disguise myself as a halfling.
Before you use it, understand that disguise self only lasts for an hour, and it might serve us better to introduce you to the people that you know, get a gauge of who knows you in what capacity, then use that when the time is right.
As I'm holding the scroll. That is fair. Understandable.
Okay. All right. So, you all heading out?
I'm gonna call Adair back so that
He's
he's
flying
not
overhead.
flying around them. Yeah.
Gonna keep him watching. Lands on your shoulder. So, you're off. Best of luck.
Thank you, thank you.
Hope you
I
aren't
have the
gone for too
sending
long.
stone. If you need anything, if anything goes awry, please send us a message.
I will, of course. Don't you worry.
Thank you
All of you,
for
be
everything.
safe. Be very safe. Be very careful. All of you.
Do our best.
Cannot
I-
guarantee it.
You don't. Oh, and please try not to collapse another capital city. That'd be.
Making such a name for ourselves.
Yes, you are. Well,
Theoretically, the only collapse will happen to a ship out at sea.
well, we can only hope. So no more destroying cities. Yes.
Yes.
If at all possible, I understand. That's a tide sometimes.
I make no promises, but you know I'm going to do my best.
I expect nothing but your best. So, off you go then.
Love you always.
I love you too,
And-
darling.
I'm gonna hop in the teleportation circle.
Okay, sounds good. So, you guys step on, make the necessary steps to go to the correct place, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Yeah, you're competent. Terrible idea to ask. Alright. And you step into the space as your vision vanishes. And it's dark. It's open once again. Takes a moment. Eyes to kind of clear out sudden space. And as you get used to it, you see a large room of stone and metal, massive double doors before you, huge, truly. You see orbs of what appear to be magma floating like torches along the walls, giving the air a very soft red orange glow. Your noses are immediately assaulted by the smell of sulfur and smoke, stone and fire. The room, a far cry from the cold, crisp, clean air that you were just in the foothills of Albanor, is a sweltering, high chemical heat. It almost feels like the moisture is as you stand here.
I lean over to Salim and I say, well, I stand corrected. Apparently we're going to be very dry.
Uncomfortably dry.
It's very uncomfortable.
Never seen magma do that before.
Thurgle,
Oh,
immediately you feel a sense of calm, comfort. You feel a sense of home. As you're standing, waiting, trying to figure out what space this is that you're in, the double doors, you hear this as they slowly grind open. The hinges smooth, but that sound of metal sliding as a wave of heat comes through, and you see a long passageway and a delegation of individuals stands before you. 3 of them.
Well, Erica kind of straightens her posture.
You see In the front, a stocky dwarf in lavish, loose robes, a heavy cloak, red and black, bearing a very familiar symbol to you, Thurgle. The sigil of Vulcanos falls over one shoulder. A large, kind of braided and tapered beard with gold facets at the end. Hair kind of pulled back in the same kinds of braids. You see another humanoid-looking man with decidedly goat-like features, ears that kind of hang down inside a slightly animalistic nose. The most notable of these features, his legs, long, fur-covered, ending in polished black hooves, wearing very similar kinds of clothing. Next to them is a woman in a loose-fitting blue dress, the same cloak turned at a sash. Stands before you with clasped hands, and you see a slight flicker of light, reptilian sheen. The dwarf steps forward, arms wide open. Welcome, friends, to Vulcanos. Forge Master Thurgle, welcome home. It's good to see you.
It is a pleasure to be home.
He reaches forth, clasping your arm in the very familiar grasp that is customary of your people. He turns to look at each of you and bows deeply. I am Antares. I will be your ambassador for your time in Mystros. Welcome. These are my companions. Terex. He points to the... many of you would identify at this point as a satyr. And this is Daini. The nods her head calmly, coolly. So, you've come to our city. We're glad to have you. Who are your guests, Thurgle?
Of course. We have ourselves Salima. We have Liv.
Liv.
And we have Lady Valerica Indrik.
Valerica Lady. Daughter of Grada?
Indeed.
Excellent. She sent word of your arrival. So
Wonderful.
Come. Welcome to our city. Have any of you been here before? As he turns and starts walking and just keeps talking.
No, but I'm very excited to add a new place to my list of travels.
Which, speaking of, at your next opportunity, can we have the finest feast of what Mystros can provide?
Of course, we have all of your lodging set. It is going to be quite, I hope, comfortable in the Spitios. And you will have all the things that you require. Don't worry.
Can I insight check him?
By all means.
$14.
14? Okay. Seems sincere. He's definitely putting on, like, delegate, ambassador, diplomat kind of vibe.
Yeah.
He's being welcoming. A far cry from the boisterous Thurgle you know, but also a very different role. So, he seems earnest and honest, but very, fulfilling his role as a diplomat.
Not coming across as, like, guarded or suspicious at all.
No more than you would expect any diplomat or ambassador to be. Yeah. You walk down a series of halls, brief kind of walk, but large, very tall, banded iron, steel, various types of metals just kind of inset into the walls, the same torches line. Still very warm, very hot. There's a slight draft. Just kind of grates set into different sections of the wall as well, with it flowing. Eventually, you are led out into a massive, cavernous space. see that it has these natural formations of stone, as though carved out by possibly the blood of the earth itself, by magma, giant tubes of space. You can see buildings constructed into the walls all the way up. It is a sweltering, busy place filled with wide open streets. You can see people about their days carrying carts of various goods, all wearing these kinds of robes, comfortable attire, definitely suited for the heat. You see this very sudden warm glow up ahead. As you approach and you are led kind of through the streets, people kind of cast their glances towards you, but mostly go about their business. You walk past this massive river of lava flowing below you. Keeps going out. Kind of follow it along this time. As your guide, Antares keeps talking. So, this is our glorious city of Volcans. Here, home to the Divine Forges, find the finest craftsmen in all the world. As you can see, and he kind of points at each of the buildings. He takes kind of a pause and a sigh. Apologies. I've seen these things for hundreds of years and still beautiful.
They are quite something.
But you come to us at the time of trouble, yes?
Unfortunately.
Well, we will discuss this more when we have you settled in. We're almost there now. Keeps walking. While you are here, you will have free reign of the city. You are free to visit the market square, the Spitition. You have prayers to any of our gods. Forge Master Thurgle, you are of course welcome to enter the Divine Forges. The only place I will say is off limits, unless granted permission, is Castros. It is, the large castle-like structure south of the mountain. But beyond that, you will find plenty of exits. You have the north and west gates if you so choose to leave, but we'll get you there. I must say, for those of you who are new, do not try to swim in the rivers.
I had a feeling it looked a little warm over there.
You would
Not
be
quite a
surprised.
fan.
You'd be surprised how many people don't think before they step.
Do you have a certain type of creature that dwells in there, or is the liquid simply hot?
It's molten magma. It is just hot. It will burn you. You will die. And there's nothing we can do. We will not fish out your body. Apologies.
It
Fair
will be
enough.
the worst 4 seconds of your life.
Yes, it will. Quite excruciating. So,
And you just leave them open and flowing everywhere. You don't have, covers or railing or...
well, we find it's best not to impede the natural flow of things. These very halls were carved by the same thing. It does most of the work for us, and when you think thousands of years in the future, it's just more space for us. The earliest of the Mystrosi saw the wisdom and slowly built our way down as the earth was carved for us. And since he gets a little wistful, the gods bless us with this wonderful earth that wants us to live here.
Salim, I know the environment is quite warm, but maybe you should take a rock from here. It might be very soothing to the back.
The heat would only last for so long.
Fair.
Ah, but you speak truth. The porous stones that we find here are exceptional for exfoliating, even if that is your inclination. But here we are, and you see he leads to one of the only freestanding buildings in this entire area. These kind of wide spaces of streets are flanked by buildings built into the walls. Nothing really is freestanding except for this one that you kind of approach. You can kind of see this large column that goes up to the ceiling with buildings built around it, but it's by itself. We have arranged for you to stay here. This is one of the places we with our honored guests. They said
Would Thurgle offhand know how significant it is being a self-standing structure?
Yeah, it's definitely unusual. There are only a few of them in the city. This one in particular, you are familiar with Vulcano, the city of, and this one is generally home to foreign dignitaries, guests, people of kind of import are kind of put here. Not necessarily travelers who just kind of come to visit, but anyone of note or importance is placed here.
And I will make that comment to everyone. Oh, so we are standing in a standalone building itself. That is very important for us.
Well, you came very recommended by a good friend, and you are guests, ambassadors from foreign lands, and
Do I get the impression when he says a very good friend, he's referring to my mother?
Mhm.
Got it. Okay.
And hopefully, if you are willing, those who will bring salvation to our problem.
We will certainly try our hardest to.
I hope to be as such.
Well, please, as the doors open again, grinding to reveal this lavish, wide open space. Almost everything here is kind of this open concept floor plan, wide, large kind of spaces for air to flow freely. You can understand that it would get really stuffy really fast if things were sealed off too much. But you walk in, it's clean, it's pristine. It even smells nice in here. You can see incense burning in different, sensors around the building. Even plants are growing down small pots. You can see these amazingly painted murals on the walls depicting great battles. You can see large open fields, mountains, depictions of deities. You look on the floor, it's these tiled images of a variety of symbols and icons that you can kind of make out bits and pieces of, but without having the deeper knowledge of symbolism that is inherent in the art. It looks stunning in here.
Has the temperature dropped at all?
Not tremendously. It's still pretty hot. It's no longer incredibly sweltering, but it is still much warmer than even the summers that you guys deal with.
I'm going to cast Unseen Servant and tell it to fan me because I am getting overheated.
Okay.
I'm used to colder climates.
All right, yeah, your Unseen Servant does its absolute best to try and kind of fan you off, and it succeeds in kind of blowing hot air towards you. It's like you're like those warm breezes on a hot day kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it in some ways, it's moving air, so it's not terrible, but it's still warm. So
Selima's gonna have her hood down and she's gonna pull her hair up for the love of everything.
I love it.
Blairica's gonna take off her overcoat that she usually wears.
Right, because you were all in winter garb. Yeah, so you guys are definitely kind of sweating up a storm,
Yep.
and you're thick, kind of. Yeah.
Just gonna lean over to Thurgle and be like, heads up about the temperature will change would have been nice.
I'm sorry, I thought Volcanos would have given away the idea of where we were going. My apologies.
Know than your language? I didn't want to make
No,
assumptions.
Thank you, Valerica. What the fuck, Thurgle? You think you speak your weird ass tongue? You know that the only person in this crew that ever could converse with you was fucking Uther.
Volcanos, root of volcano. Not
It is
my
true.
problem.
It is true.
But I will try my best to help going forward.
Yeah, that attitude's real great when I'm standing in the middle of a volcano to help your ass.
This coming from the fire goddess herself.
This is true.
He got you good.
I accept that title. I accept that title.
Friends, do not worry. We have in all of your lodgings, because we know the fires of the forges are not for all, and they take some acclimating. Worry not, we have magics in place to account for things within your private sanctums.
Oh, thank God. Let's go. Let's go.
Very kind of you, thank you.
By all means, as he kind of ushers you up, a short kind of flight of stairs, and you find an area that is not dissimilar from some of the other places you've stayed with, kind of rooms adjacent to one another. Each of them looks fairly large, but you walk into these kind of through these heavy doors to this one kind of space that you walk into, and it looks to be a little bit of a meeting kind of gathering room. You can see several other doors in place. So, this is one of the suites that we reserve for foreign guests. This is a free room for you to use. Your sleeping quarters are through the doors, as well as your privy and some storage if you require. But this will be your new home for the foreseeable future. The staff here available be at your beck and call should you need anything. I will give you time to get settled. It is later in the day here than I imagined it in where it came from. So I imagine you are quite eager to get started, even though it's quite late. So I will be available whenever you so wish. Simply summon one of the servants and they will fetch me.
Wonderful, thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you for coming, all of you. And Master Thurgle, it is truly wonderful to have you back in the city. You've been missed.
It is a pleasure to be home.
He kind of inclines his head towards all of you, backs away, closes the door. Left in your suite.
The ground made out of?
Some kind of stone. It's been
Okay.
tiled over.
I start plugging the ground with Ray of Frost.
You do notice that as soon as the door closes, the temperature kind of dips quite considerably. But yeah, you guys just watch Valerian just these spikes of frost just start forming, and this slick kind of ice-like surface begins forming on the floor.
I'm gonna go lay against one of the little spikes of frozenness.
Okay. Almost immediately they start kind of like melting, but it is cooler, and it is much cooler now for having thrown ice at everything.
It's a cantrip.
Yeah.
I can do it all day.
Yeah. Thankfully, no damage to the floor or anything, but you see a wonderful kind of sitting area. You can see some food has been laid out in these wonderful kind of bowls filled with fruits and grains and nuts, berries, breads, flat bread looking things, what look like a variety of spreads or cheeses. It's quite a lovely, board of food that's been set out.
So he said it was later in the day. Knowing generally where we were traveling and using keen mind, can I surmise at least like within a ballpark of an hour what time it is, or do you think that I would know exactly?
I would say you would know exactly. This is going to betray, GM not having done time zones on his planet. So let's call it, an 8-hour difference. You guys are on the other side of the continent at this point.
So if we had left around mid-morning, then we're looking at evening.
You're probably looking late afternoon.
All right.
At this point. Yeah.
I'm going to address them and saying, due to the fact that we have probably traveled so much time in such little time, you may experience some sleeplessness. I apologize. It is an unfortunate thing of traveling across the time zones in such rapid, consecutive time frame. As a sailor, I know we used to sort of counter this with drinking severely. It made us pass out faster.
But we also know how that usually turns out. Valerica, do you got any tea that you brought with you?
I did bring some, yeah. It is hot enough to brew against the walls here.
Not quite that hot. It is definitely a far more comfortable temperature. It's a nice balmy, 80 degrees.
I like Valerica's exaggeration, though.
Oh, sure. I mean, you could probably try holding it up to one of the magma torches and see what happens.
Pull out a tea set, set up some tea.
Okay. You guys set up your tea and you settle in.
So because of he was mentioning that they would help us with that, whatever we need, I'm going to make a request. I might have to leave the room to do so, but I'm going to make a request to get like a compilation of like recent news in whatever form that they have it, whether it be in stories or a newspaper or whatever it might be, so I can kind of catch up on what the culture, what the society itself has been thinking about this problem that's been going on, kind of get a feel for things and kind of commit any important information to mind.
Okay.
I'm also going to request, if Liv has to step outside for that, and we say, be sure to ask for maps for important areas as well, so that we can look at it.
You got it.
Okay.
Just to be mindful of the terrain that we're going to be in.
You do see in one of the areas there appears to be a hanging rope, with some signage on it that indicates it would call a servant to come and
Bring, bring.
you wait a few moments before you hear a kind of a heavy knock on the metal door. Just
And I go and I open it.
you see before you stands kind of a half-elven youth sitting there. Ah, honored guests, what can I get for you?
What is your name, sir?
My name is...
Freshly generated.
No, I do actually have his name, believe it or not. My name is Throkis.
Hi, Throkus. I am Liv. I'm one of the guests, as you can surmise. We have a couple small requests, and then I relay the information that I'm looking for. And I, at the very end, I'm like, and maps. And maps.
Very well, I will see what I can do about the maps. As far as rumors or news go, specifically about the and see his head kind of hangs, the missing forge ship. It is quite a devastation for our people.
Do you know the name of the ship that was taken?
It has mostly been kept quiet, so as not to cause panic. But of course, I hear things. It was, to my knowledge, the Karos that was taken. The Pithagos and the Dedlos seem to be just fine. But I've also heard tale that several villages have been destroyed. They have not attacked any major cities or settlements whatsoever. As far as news within the city, there was an accident of the forges the other day. An apprentice fell into one of the pools. It's quite a mess. But it happens. There are construction projects always occurring. There was quite a big brawl at one of the taverns the other night. Not sure over what, but it was quite a spectacle, I hear. I'm not entirely sure what to tell you. I mean, there's
That's good
always
enough
much
for
going
now.
on.
That's good enough for now. Thank you.
Of course, I will work on procuring those those maps for you.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Of course. He kind of heads off, leaving you be in your private space. So, you guys are settling in. You look around, see the wonderful painted mural, settle onto these open couches, kind of break and reprieve. Very warm welcome. Eventually, Throkus does come back with a handful of maps. One in particular is just the map of the hegemony of Mystros, regions, major cities, and settlements. A couple of surrounding. Yes. Can I get you anything else?
not me tonight. Anything the rest of you need before we turn in?
The gentleman wanted us to check in with them, didn't he? Once we were settled. Are we planning on doing work tonight, or are we just going to sleep and try to adjust to the time zone?
I think if we're going to have any success and not end up with exhaustion on the following days, we might want to do the hard work tonight on sleeping.
Actually, I do have a question for him. What is the weather like outside currently? I know in our area right now it is absolutely frigid in winter. What is it like out in this region currently?
Oh, as always in this area, it is. It's been quite some time since I've been outside, actually. To my knowledge, it is sunny and warm. Usually the case within the vicinity of the city. It is winter. We're not so far south, but you will find that Mystros for the most part stays quite warm.
Do you have any storm systems predicted in the next day or so within the
I
region?
apologize. I do not know. If you would so wish, you're more than welcome to go to the Talons and speak to any of the priests there. They may have some knowledge of what the gods have in store.
Tell me, have you any news of Theos?
Any specific news of Theos? No, he graced us with a bountiful rain quite some days ago. I imagine the fields would be quite happy, but no direct word that we've heard.
So you've not heard how upset he was with the fact that the Ford ship was stolen?
I have not. I would imagine Estes would be much more upset, but we've not heard word from the priest. At least not I. Perhaps they may know more about the desires and designs of the god.
Well, we've heard Hephaestus is angry as well, but seems that Theos is a little more on edge, as it were.
Well, if this is the case, then I certainly hope that somebody helps those who are foolish enough to take the ship.
I'm gonna toss a gold coin to him and say, make sure everyone knows of Theus and his displeasure in this.
Roll a persuasion check.
Nat 20!
Very nice. All right. Hell yeah. So he catches the coin, looks at it, looks at you, and he says, he says, the god's will be known. Pockets it. Enjoy the rest of it. If there's anything else you need, don't hesitate.
Thank you.
He bows and kind of backs his way out and kind of closes the door behind him, leaving you all be. So, you all settle in, whether or not you're taking a rest. Comfortable in your new ambassador's apartments within the city of Vulcanos, the sweltering home of the Defiant Forges, Hephaestus, and capital of the Vulcanos region of Mystros. You've made it to the other side of the world. Congratulations. Finally.
Hey.
But we will pick it up there next time as you begin your investigation into the missing forged ship, the Karos, and
Exciting.
potentially a showdown with Thurgo's past and history.
Dun dun dun!
We will see
It's
what
electrifying.
we'll see what designs are in store, and what you'll have to do to try and chase down the legendary ships and those who have stolen it. So, thank you guys. Congratulations. Well done. Welcome to
Thank you.
Mystros. Alright, we'll pick it up next week. Thank you guys. Appreciate you guys playing. You guys are fantastic and amazing. We will see everybody next week.